Hello my friends, David Kessler here and welcome back to the studio. Today I want to talk to you about centers of interest and how do you make those in an abstract painting and why do you actually need one. I see abstract paintings all the time online, on social media, in galleries everywhere that have no center of interest. They have the same size shapes, they have similar values, all the hard edges, all of this and all that, all the sameness. And the reason I think it's important to have a center of interest in an abstract painting is the same reason you'd want one in a landscape painting or a floral painting or a still life or a figurative work. You need it in there to provide a sense of hierarchy in the work, a little bit of structure in the work, and to give me as the viewer a place to look, a place for my eye to rest. You're showing me as the artist what's the most important part of that painting. And so many abstract painters, they don't do that. They don't care about it. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot about you out there, they're going to watch this and think, well, you know, I don't care about a center of interest in a painting. And that's fine. If you don't care about it, that's all right. I personally think you need one to make your abstract paintings better than the next person's. All right? So what is a center of interest? It's a place for your eye to rest. It's the focus of the work. You can have multiple centers of interest. It goes by a lot of different names. You know, it's also called the focal point, the focal area, the area of dominance, the area of interest, etc., etc. There's just tons. There's probably 20 names for the same thing. It all means the same thing. It's the focus area of the painting that allows your eye to look at it, to rest, to observe it, and it provides a bit of a hierarchy that says, hey, this area is more important, so I want you to look over here. Or this area is more important, I want you to look over here. Rather than having the same value, the same sameness, the same boringness. Boringness, is that a word? I don't want your work to be boring. I want it to be good. I want it to be good as a landscape painters or a floral painters or still life painters or figurative painters. And to do that, I believe you need a center of interest. Now, there's three main ways to make a center of interest. The first is value contrast. And that's light against dark. Right? Paintings are all about contrast. This is what we're looking for in main paintings. Think about Rembrandt. Right? Rembrandt. What was he doing? Why did his portraits glow so much? Because he had such a dark background, and the light flesh tones against the dark background really made those things vibrate. Now, he had a lot of other things that he did that made his work exceptional, but it's the light against dark that we think about first. Vermeer also, think about Vermeer's work, light against dark, okay? This is the highest contrast area, lightest light versus the darkest dark. That's how you start to set up your center of interest. Number two is color contrast. Right? So think about complementary color combinations. Think about intensity of color, the highest intensity of color. That's why complementary color schemes are so powerful, is that if you use one dominant color and use the other color as your accent color at your center of interest, then you get a high level of color contrast between those two colors. Also, the intensity of the color, meaning the brightest color, the closest to the color out of the tube, that color intensity, that high color intensity naturally draws your eye to that area if it's brighter and more intense than the colors around it. Right? So value contrast, light against dark, color contrast complementary colors or the most intense color will draw your eye immediately to a part of your painting. Now, number 3 is a hard edge. Hard edges come forward. Right? Hard edges come forward, blended edges recede. So it makes sense that you'd want your hard edge to be at your center of interest. Think about a landscape painting. This is how landscape painters begin to build in perspective, aerial perspective and space in their paintings. The hard edge is the closest to you, the closest to your eyes, the closest to your face, so it comes forward. As you begin to blend edges or soften the edges, the space begins to recede. So it's easy to think about a hard edge coming forward, and you can use these 3 together, or you can use them individually, or you can use these in any combination to create a strong and powerful center of interest. Okay, let me show you just one of my paintings real quick. Not that you want to paint like me, don't get me wrong. Simple complementary color painting combination, predominantly blue, accent colors orange. So I'm using here and here all of these 3 things: value contrast, color contrast, and the hardest edge. Right, so this is my lightest light against my darkest dark. Right, here and here, here and here. This is my, so that's value contrast. This is also the brightest color in the painting, the most intense color in the painting, here and here. Right, so that's color contrast. And also it's the complementary color I'm using as my accent color. And I'm also using the hardest edge here and here and here to help those 2 areas stand out from the other areas of the painting. So essentially I have 2 centers of interest here with a sort of a implied link between the 2. Not that this is a perfect painting, just showing you that as an example of why this painting works, because of the light against dark, the color contrast, and the hardest edge to create your center of interest. Okay? Look, if this is not something that's important to you, don't worry about it and don't do it. But I believe that if you use a center of interest or multiple centers of interest in your abstract paintings, they will be better, more powerful, and more visually impactful than if you don't. Okay? 3 easy ways to do it. I hope this video is helpful for you, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.